Two families mourning the loss of their sons in two separate shootings in Philadelphia. The city now well over 300 murders due to the out-of-control violence.
Now, she called it out of control. Okay? Because I'm noticing we're starting to get a lot of pro-son viewers over here. Pro-sons. And you know there's nobody they love more than criminals. So the news anchor actually used the term out of control. So direct your anger towards her.
Two families mourning the loss of their sons in two separate shootings in Philadelphia. The city now well over 300 murders due to the out-of-control violence. I'm Dawn Timoney. One of the victims was a student at Boys Latin Charter School. In fact, he's the sixth student at that school to be killed in just 5 years. And
they had a school in D.C. one year. I think it was in the early 2000s. Might have been the mid-2000s. Ballou High School, they had 9 students killed in 1 year. So this is common throughout the stand. It just 6 students in 5 years. The reason that's such a big thing is because this school is like a very, prestigious, like, I think it's a charter school for predominantly African American. And they turn out a lot of great students. They do a good job. The CEO over there is a brother. I did a video about him last week. So yeah, for a school like that to lose 6 kids within 5 years, that is, considering the quality of the school, it's just a tragedy, man. Just tragic, man. And you don't see this when it comes to murder. You see this with drunk driving and other groups, but you also see drunk driving in this group. So it's not like, some teens are always getting killed in drunk driving. So, but you see that throughout all the groups when it comes to drunk driving, kids, you're losing their lives at a very young age, school age. But murder, this is a Blackistanian problem, man. And we gotta, I'm at the point now, it's like, all right, so you don't want to hear about it. You don't want to talk about it. Okay. You don't want to not come to a channel that talks about it. You don't want to just be like, oh, that's one of Ak Nation's videos. Nah, I ain't watching that. You want to actually come here, watch the video, and whine about it. I don't know what to do with y'all, man. My suggestion is, you just want to not hear about this stuff. I have a channel where I talk about hip hop. And 2 rappers were murdered this weekend. Gonzo was murdered in Seattle. And these are 2, like, I wouldn't call Gonzo a legend, but I would call him, because of his ties and how long he's been in the game and his recent social media, his second life on social media. He was definitely known. I was subscribed to him on Twitter. His Vlad interview. So he was a known quantity. And he was a Ice Cube and Tupac affiliate. So and then E-Die 600 was, one of the founders of drill music in Chicago. So these are 2. No, these aren't just some SoundCloud rapper who you never heard of got killed this weekend. 2 rappers got killed this weekend. So you might not want to check out my hip hop and celebrity news channel, Ak Nation TV. You can subscribe to that in the link. Also subscribe to Ak Nation Gold. We need 8 more subscribers to get to 1,000. Make sure you go over there and subscribe. But I do have another channel where I talk about sports. Ock Nation. No, Living Room Gangster. That would be Living Room Gangster. That's my other channel. Links to all these channels in the description box. So if this is not the channel for you, if you just want to act like, 6 kids at one of your flagship schools in one of your flagship cities being murdered over a 5-year period, if somehow talking about that is offensive to you, just subscribe to one of my other channels. They're all links in the description box.
The city now well over 300 murders due to the out-of-control violence. I'm Dawn Timoney. One of the victims was a student at Boys Latin Charter School. In fact, he's the 6th student at that school to be killed in just 5 years. And tonight, Kelly, you spoke with his heartbroken mother.
Dawn, I did. The family of 16-year-old Kaylin Johnson, best known as KJ, do not want him to be just another statistic. They tell me he was loved. He had so much going for him, and he was innocent in this. He was not the intended target, and yet he was struck by another senseless bullet.
I mean, just as many gangsters, thugs get killed in the community as innocent victims. Just think about how many stories we do with little kids. We know they didn't have nothing to do with the situation. 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. In public. Since this is bothering y'all so much, I've already told you what to do. I think this is horrible, man. This is terrible, okay? This is terrible. Knowing that this kid had nothing to do with it, it would have been one thing if, okay, he was going to Boys Latin, being a good kid, doing all his work on one side, and then there was another side to him where it's like, playing both sides of the fence, and it's like, well, he still had a whole life ahead of him. He still had time to turn the stuff around, and kids do stupid stuff, but at least we understand why this promising young man's life was just abruptly ended. Like, while he was just standing somewhere, and then boom, he was dead in public, in his community. But then to find out that he wasn't playing both sides. He wasn't slanging a little on the side. He wasn't involved in a gang. He wasn't like, he wasn't Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, one way around mama and the school in another way when he was in the street. Completely innocent victim. Wow.
He was loved. He had so much going for him, and he was innocent in this. He was not the intended target, and yet he was struck by another senseless bullet.
The person that saved my life, that kept me off the streets, I wasn't there to save his.
The mom of 16-year-old Kaylin Johnson, known as KJ, says her last conversation with her son, he asked for permission, like he always did before going somewhere, to go to the YMCA before work Wednesday. But he never made it there.
At 12:05, my son wasn't here no more.
Man.
My whole life was for him.
He was a kid that did not deserve what happened to him. Point blank, period.
In broad daylight, police say KJ was with 2 others in a car Wednesday when gunfire erupted.
Can we stop this gunfire erupted crap? Because we can't do gunfire erupted and do the Capitol riots was the worst thing that ever happened. We can't do both. Gunfire erupted, which completely absolves the shooter from any responsibility on one hand, and then gunfire erupted, and then on the other hand, the Capitol riots where no one had a gun, no one other than the police officer was shoved around a little bit. Everybody was 50 and 60-year-old entrepreneurs and CEOs and small business owners. The cops outnumbered protesters. The protesters were invited onto the property. And every day it's violence, violence, violence. Yet this young man loses his life. Like you're just sitting in the car 1 minute, vibing with your homeboys next minute. And it's, well, gunfire erupted. And the only reason they're doing that because it was Sun people. And they gotta excuse everything Sun people did. It's not, you show up to the Olympics and then you decide you don't want to compete. Well, I mean, you break the rules. Well, they should change the rules. You're seeing this everywhere. It's not helping us. Let me talk to you white liberals for a second. You're not helping us with this.
In broad daylight, police say KJ was with 2 others in a car Wednesday when gunfire erupted. His friend, 18-year-old Tommy Frazier, also died at the hospital. Like many of KJ's friends, his mom, Emily Johnson, knew Tommy well.
But I have a lot of kids because of Keelan.
KJ attended Boys Latin Charter School, the 6th student they have lost to gun violence in 5 years, and the 2nd in just a few months.
I saw him a couple days ago, and then, just hearing that news is just devastating. I don't really want his memory to ever go away. He's a really special kid.
So this is his football coach. He was a football player. Now, we saw this when we see this whenever a career criminal suspect is being arrested and then resists arrest, and the arrest goes left, and then the force is used by the cop to complete the arrest, and then something bad happens. All the football players get online, and what do they say? Don't answer that. You already know. That could have been me. That could have been my son. That could have been my father. Even though none of them know their fathers. That could have been me. Okay. Hit one if you think any football player is going to come out and say, that could have been me. Don't answer that. You already know. They won't. They don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter unless it would only have mattered if this guy had killed this young man. That's the only way they would have cared about this young man's life, is if this guy would have killed him. But since this guy didn't do it, they don't care. It's time to stop this whole thing. Well, they don't know. They know every. Have you ever heard of Kenosha before? Had you ever heard of Ferguson, Missouri? Or Sanford, Florida? They find out when they can find out these little towns, these little places, when it's important to them, when they care. They don't care.
And then, just hearing that news is just devastating. I don't really want his memory to ever go away. He's a really special kid.
What did he mean to you?
Like a brother. That's all I knew. I don't even know the reason of killing somebody. Like, that's going to be in your conscience forever.
Family members, his coach, and other loved ones surrounded Emily Friday night. An only child, she says he played a ton of sports, including basketball and football, was involved in school plays, with dreams of going to college, simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
What I'm supposed to do now, what I'm supposed to live for again.
Nobody's going to ever forget KJ's name. Ever. Ever.
And you can see how many people, family, loved ones showed up tonight on a whim to talk to me about KJ. Dawn, no doubt there's going to be an outpouring of community support on Monday when they gather in his honor again at Boys Latin at 6 o'clock.